Thank you again for asking us to present our work as court-appointed monitors in the O'Donnell Consent Decree. We know what a just overwhelming and action-packed day you have had, and appreciate you hearing from us after many hours of hard work. As you know, our role is wholly independent of any of the parties in the case. Our role is to report to the federal court regarding the progress of this consent decree. And we were appointed because, as you also know well, the prior system of misdemeanor bail had been found unconstitutional after years of litigation, which we took no part in. Our work pertains only to misdemeanor cases and the pretrial process in misdemeanor cases in Harris County. We're happy to report that we've completed 2 years of work in this role. The parties envisioned a 7-year term for the monitorship because the decree set out such a comprehensive plan for reform. And the basics, as you also know well, is that at the point of arrest, there are required releases for low-level misdemeanors. Second, at the bail hearings, there's public defense representation, discovery, and other due process protections, making the bail hearings far more robust in misdemeanor cases. Third, the consent decree aims to increase court appearance rates with sound rules and supports, including an exciting and very new system of electronic court notifications. Fourth, the consent decree calls for certain outside evaluations and a publicly accessible data portal. So in our latest report, which was filed last week, we observed, consistent with our 3 prior reports, that the numbers of persons arrested for misdemeanors has overall declined a great deal since 2015, with just a slight uptick post-pandemic in 2021. Further, the numbers of people repeat arrested, people arrested for misdemeanors who had new charges filed within 1 year, has also steadily declined. In 2015, for example, that number was 11,888 persons, while in 2020 it was 8,647 persons. There are several possible explanations for these positive results, but they certainly show that rearrests have not become more common after the O'Donnell reforms began. There are also about 15,000 fewer people in the jail over the course of each year on misdemeanors than there had been in 2015. This drop is due in part to the overall drop in misdemeanor arrests, but it's likely particularly due to the consent decree, which grants most misdemeanors a right to release without payment of money. Under O'Donnell, racial disparities as between those who did and did not get released pretrial also disappeared quite quickly, quite soon after the reforms were adopted. We also note a growing trend in which most misdemeanor cases are eventually dismissed, most recently consisting of 68% of the cases disposed of in both 2019 and 2020. The new changes affect multiple stages of the process in misdemeanor cases, and some of those changes are still ongoing. We've seen overall cost savings from the O'Donnell changes, and our most recent 4th report digs in deeper than we had before into some of those cost savings and new costs, of course. The Rule 9 process results in large savings despite some of those added costs. We've estimated average annual savings to the county of about $6 million per year under the consent decree, including due to reduced cost for arrest, booking, pretrial screening, bond hearings, court settings, and pretrial detention. The savings to individuals and their families are far larger, including lost wages and the like, wages that would have otherwise have been lost if the people had been detained pretrial. It's an estimated $60 million per year. That cost work is still ongoing, and there are additional costs that we are examining, including cost to victims and the benefits of certain diversion programs. We emphasize the consent decree is a long-term undertaking, though, even with 2 years behind us. Key pillars have been implemented, but others are still in progress. The court appearance provisions and the electronic court notification system, which is perhaps the largest scale such misdemeanor court notification system in the country, have just been implemented, and we're still reviewing, how is this going? Additional implementation is still in progress, including responses to some recommendations from outside vendors regarding indigent defense, and also the development of a public data portal so that people will be able to interact and see what's going on in the misdemeanor system. The county's made enormous progress on that, and we hope that it's ready quite soon. So that's our big picture overview. Thank you, as always, for your support, for your engagement. We thank you and all the Harris County officials whose hard work has made these reforms possible, and we would love to answer any questions that you have.
Commissioner Ellis and then Commissioner Cable.
I think you answered the questions that I was going to ask. I just want to stress it again in case some of us didn't catch it. How much money have we saved as a result of the O'Donnell settlement? Did you said $6 million? My figures say $6.6 million per year.
Yes, it's an average of 6.6 million per year since these reforms were implemented, and that's based on what we know so far. We have good cost estimates for most of the main elements, and so this is obviously very good news. And we noted that the savings are 10 times that in terms of the costs that the old system were imposing on individuals and families outside of cost to government.
Yeah, I didn't hear the number, but if we had not, I think you made the comment about some reference to where we would be if we had not done misdemeanor bail, since our jail is already overcrowded. But what's the estimate on how many more folks we'd have in jail if we had not done the O'Donnell settlement for misdemeanors?
Yeah, so it's gone up and down, but and we can't attribute it all to the bail settlement because there are fewer misdemeanor arrests as well. But in general, what we've been seeing the last few years is about 15,000 fewer people in the jail for some period of time in misdemeanors. That said, misdemeanor stays are pretty short, but it's an enormous number of people, obviously.
And I think it bears repeating. You mentioned it earlier, but what impact has misdemeanor bail reform had on new charges and rearrest rates?
We've seen no change. We've seen just in general a decline in misdemeanor arrests and the same rate of people rearrest, but fewer people overall. So fewer people coming back into the system, fewer new people being arrested on misdemeanors. That's been fairly steady each year. We saw an uptick in arrests in 2021 after the pandemic dipped a little bit. But yeah, in general, fewer misdemeanor arrests and fewer rearrests.
And by the way, I'm Rodney Ellis. In case I know you're Duke, but in case you didn't catch the Southern drawl, I'm Rodney Ellis asking the questions. If you can't see us, look, just in
I can see it. We have video. Yeah.
Oh, you can see us. Oh, just in general terms, I know that any form of bail has been a scapegoat for people who don't want to talk about real reforms in our system, like gun violence and a host of other issues, mental health issues. But just any comment you want to make about what you see, and I know you're looking around the country on these issues about bail reform and the uptick in crime.
Yeah, obviously, crime trends have been really complicated over the last 2 years during the pandemic. We've seen shootings go up all around the country. Here in Durham, where I live, we've had record numbers of shootings, and there has been no bail reform. And so, understandably, people are looking for causes of the uptick in shootings. Of course, the bail reform in Houston is misdemeanor bail reform. And these are not felony cases. These are misdemeanor cases. Not all of them are low level. Some have real public safety importance, like repeat DUI cases, domestic violence cases. But that's obviously a very different ecosystem in our criminal system, the whole misdemeanor space. I do think that there has been some confusion around both what bail reform is and what bail is, because these bail reforms are not just about who's in, who is out. It's also about supports, like court appearance supports, to make sure that people succeed in their cases. It's about having fair bail hearings where you can have a more serious inquiry into whether there's a public safety concern. And, we've seen casual reporting, which is somewhat outside our scope, obviously, but people talking about cases saying this terrible crime happened when someone was out on bail, and they were out on cash bail. And to my mind, that sort of illustrates some of the defects of the cash bail system that was in place in misdemeanors prior to this consent decree. But obviously, there's not a system focusing on a cash bail schedule anymore. Instead, there's this careful inquiry into public safety, which we certainly have seen that as an improvement in the misdemeanor space. Obviously, there has been no reform like that in the felony space. I need to log off in a second, but
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sorry we got you on so late.
Commissioner Cable.
I have 3 fairly quick questions. And I have in front of me the 109-page report that you guys filed. Do you have any data on how many misdemeanor bond forfeitures or revocations?
Yes, we do. I have to log off really in a second. We do have data on bond failures, but we note that that data has not been reliable in the past and that there are real questions about how well it's recorded and how consistently it was recorded. We don't see much change in recent years. Overall, there was a decline, but we note that that data has not been reliable. There is a new system for even defining when someone can fail a bond and for what counts as an inexcusable non-appearance. That new court appearance system went into place about a year ago, and we're now just looking at the data for that first year under the new system. We're not sure that the data under the new system is even compatible with the old system, but we're just starting to dig into it. There isn't cause for concern based on the old data, but we know that it's not, doesn't reflect a ground truth in terms of failures to appear or failures of the bond.
Can we get that from you with the caveat?
Yeah. Oh no, we report on it with the caveat. We report on it in our monitor report and in past reports as well.
Do you have any data on misdemeanor defendants on bond that then became charged with felonies as opposed to repeat as misdemeanor?
Yes. Yeah, we describe that. We separate that in our analysis as well, and we haven't seen changes over time in those percentages either.
And this is a very nicely done report. How much money did the county pay for this report?
They don't pay anything in particular for a report. We have a yearly budget.
And how much is that?
A few $100,000. We're incredibly cheap. But you can see our statements of work on our website, and we submit budgets to you all every year.